was extraordinary. Now, Terry Jones passed away this January 2020. In 1st January he passed away, and he was very much famous. He was a famous comedian, he was a screenwriter, and he was a comedian and a director. So, in this, when we are reading about the author, it says that the students should go through the novel if they get time. Well, it's a good habit. One should develop the habit of reading. And you can see as the chapter starts, there are a few words given in the beginning, but the rest are written on the board. While reading the chapter, I will explain line-wise, word-by-word explanation. And it's a story of a boy, Nicobobinus. It says, this is the story of the most extraordinary child who ever stuck his tongue out at the Prime Minister. His name was Nicobobinus. He lived a long time ago in a city called Vegas, and he could do anything. Now, the very first paragraph, the writer is telling us about this character about which we are reading. He says that he is very unpredictable child. You never know. He can do anything. You can expect anything from this child. And his name was Nicobobinus, and he lived a long time ago in the city of Venice. Of course, everybody knew he could do anything. In fact, only his best friend Rosie knew, and nobody took any notice of anything Rosie said because she was always having wild ideas. Anyway, now what happens that people were not aware of Nicobobinus as such, at least this time. One of his friends, girlfriend, means a little girl, her name was Rosie, and only she was aware that Nicobobinus was a child from whom you can expect anything. It can be a good manner, it can be something very naughty, something which could be a very dangerous situation as well. Now, this is an adventure story. Adventure story is when you face challenges, you face difficult situations. And Rosie was aware that Nicobobinus is such kind of a child, but nobody noticed Rosie telling people that how extraordinary he was, how unusual he was, or how dragons. Now, as we have said in the beginning of the chapter, that they were very extraordinary. Now, they had this idea that let's discover the land of dragons, something unusual, something not related to the reality. Don't be daft, said Nicobobinus. How can we do that? Now, daft means don't be silly. What a stupid question or what a stupid idea you will share with me. How can we do that? I mean, it's not possible at all. This is what Nicobobinus said to Rosie. So the next morning, just as it was getting light, Rosie threw little pebbles up at Nicobobinus' shadow. Nicobobinus was still half asleep when he looked out. What's the matter, Rosie? He asked. Shh, whispered Rosie. I have got the buns and the lemonade. Now what happens that the next day, when it was light and it was dawn time, Rosie went to the Nicobobinus house and she threw some pebbles. Pebbles are very small pieces of stones. They are not big, they are very small. So she threw those pebbles on the window of the Nicobobinus house and she tried to wake up Nicobobinus, and he was half asleep and he was just rolling, like, what do I say? He was trying to open his eyes because he was asleep and he was trying to focus. What is Rosie doing here on the board at this time? And she said, shh, don't shout. He asked, what are you doing here? So Rosie replied that I have got bun are those which we use in burgers. We keep those chicken patties in it and all that. And she says that I have lemonade and I have 2 buns and come out. What for? Asked Nicobobinus. Supplies for the road, whispered Rosie. Where are we going? Asked Nicobobinus. We are going to find the land of dragons, whispered Rosie. Don't you remember? Now you can expect such things because they are kids. They can do anything and they can have these silly ideas. So Rosie came early in the morning and made him awake and tell him that let's go. I've got supplies, the things which we carry with ourselves, the food which we carry with ourselves, when we go at far places or we travel to the long distance places. We are self-carrying, all of us. We carry those chips and juices with us that what if we get hungry, so there should be something with us. So Rosie says that you forgot we have planned that we will find the land of dragons. So she says, don't you remember? Oh, I thought you might have forgotten about that, said Nicobobinus. No, yes, it is one of the best ideas I've ever had. Now, Rosie is motivating, she is encouraging Nicobobinus that let's go, let's find out the land of dragon. No fear. They're making for you, just go. Let's not be afraid of it. Let's do it. What about the meeting, said Nicobobinus? Come on, said Rosie. Now, Nicobobinus is saying that yesterday you were talking about you pull out all the views from the doorstep and now you are saying that we are going to have this supplies for the road and we are going to find out the land of dragon. So Rosie says, come on, let's do something different, something special. So they set off through the early morning town. When they got to the end of the narrow street where they lived, they met the night watchman who said, where are you two going at this hour? Now what happens that Nicobobinus gets ready and both of them start walking out of their house very silently. And when they reach at the end of the street, the night watchman, you must have noticed even in our streets, at every end of the street there are night watchmen. We have those security guards which take care of our houses for all the night. You must have noticed. So he was a night watchman at the end of the street, and he was asking the two kids that where are you two going at this hour, at this present time? Where are you going? It was early in the morning, it was dawn. We are going to look for the land of dragons, said Nicobobinus. Now, kids are innocent. So he replied that we are actually going to find out the land of dragons. I was very happy and excited. You can't do that at this time of the morning, said the night watchman, but before you could grab them or hold them, Rosie and Nicobobinus were sprinting away as fast. When the kids realized that the night watchman was stopping them, was not letting them do all this, what they did, that they started running before he could grab them or hold them or stop them. Now in the next paragraph it says, and they didn't stop running until they had crossed 3 bridges and tried over a dog that was lying asleep under a garden wall. Rosie's bottle of lemonade smashed against the wall and the dog leaped to its feet, barking as if it had thought dog's doomsday had arrived. For a moment they were sure it was going to bite them, but then it noticed the 2 buns that had rolled into the gutter, and it wolfed them down, barked, thanked and ran off to tell its friends. Now in this paragraph, it says that when they noticed that the night watchman was trying to stop the case, so both of them started running so fast, they were so fast that they crossed 3 bridges. And they were in so much hurry that the lemonade she was carrying with herself in a bottle that smashed the wall, and the bottle was a glass bottle, so it smashed and it was into pieces and all the lemonade just fell. They noticed that near the garden wall there was a garden wall, a dog was asleep, and when that bottle smashed the wall, it awakened him, and when it awaked, it started barking. Now overhead the situation is, even we human beings, if a person is sleeping or if an animal is sleeping and all of a sudden you notice noise, we human, if we are sleeping and we notice that somebody is disturbing us, so we react in such a way that we get angry that what is this? We can't sleep and such noise you are making. What are you people doing? Same is the case with the dog reaction. The dog, when he opened its eye and he heard that noise, he started barking, and he was barking so loud that the writer over here is saying that as if it was the dog's doomsday. Doomsday means the last day of the world existence, since Qayamat कहते हैं. So it says that the dog started barking so loudly as if it was his last day in the world. And he says that while barking, the kid over there thought that the dog might bite them. They were afraid of it, which is very natural. But the dog noticed that the 2 buns which Rosie was carrying with her were rolling into gutter. So he was barking, but the dog was looking at those buns, and as if he was saying thank you to Rosie, and he just straight away ran towards his friend that he wanted to share it with his friends. The dog wanted to share those buns with his friends, and he went and he just informed them that let's have a party. Now what happens? We are not going to get far with our supplies, said Rosie gloomily. Now Rosie got upset. Gloomily means she got sad. She says, shoulder. Of course you can, said Rosie. Stand on my shoulders. Now, Rosie was such kind of a character that every time she encouraged Nicobobinus to do everything. Everything that was even difficult, but she motivated him in such a way that Nicobobinus would do it at that particular time. And she said that you can do it. How? She said, just you can stand on my shoulders. Just come stand and you reach the tree and you can have those apples. So Nicobobinus stood on Rosie's shoulder and climbed onto the wall, but the tree was further away than he thought. And as he reached out, he lost his balance and fell with a crash down into the most magnificent garden he had ever been in. Now what happens? That literally Nicobobinus stood on the shoulder of Rosie and he tried to get those apples. And when he raised his hand, he couldn't keep his balance and he fell into the garden. And then he realized it was such a beautiful garden that he says that he had never seen such a beautiful garden ever before. Okay, now what happens? Nicobobinus looked back up at the high wall, but there was no way he could climb back. You can see in the picture on the board that Rosie is standing up there and Nicobobinus is lying in the garden and he is looking high at the wall. That how will he go back? What am I going to do? He yelled, he shouted, what am I going to do now? I am in a garden and the wall is so high. How will I come back? You will think of something, Rosie yelled back, crossing her fingers very hard. They crossed their fingers when something is difficult for them. And she said that you can do anything, just think over it. Now, Rosie is such, I don't know what kind of a child Rosie is and what is she doing, what is she up to. So, she yelled back, she was crossing her fingers and she says that you can do something, just think over it, how to manage the situation. Boy, said a voice behind Nicobobinus. Nicobobinus didn't stop to look who it was. He ran straight into the trees. Now what happens? That while both of them were shouting and screaming, they didn't realize that somebody was actually observing them. And one of the boys came, "Oi!" and he was like trying to gain his attention. And Nicobobinus didn't look back, he just started running towards the tree. "Got you," said the voice to Nicobobinus felt the 5-tip finger on his neck. Somebody hold him from his neck and all the 5 fingers in this way. "Oh," said Nicobobinus, "I've been waiting for you," said the voice, and Nicobobinus felt 5 more thick fingers round his wrist. Somebody was holding his neck and his wrist with all the 5 fingers very tight. But Nicobobinus, instead of trying to run away, doubled himself up and went backward as fast as he could. So the man's legs were knocked from under him and he landed in a pile of leaves. Now what happened? That Nicobobinus was not looking back who the man was and what he looks like. But he felt somebody was holding his neck and his wrist. Nicobobinus didn't try to get out of it or to land in a forward situation. He gained all his strength and he moved in a backward situation because he made that man imbalanced and that man just straight away went into the pile of the leaves. A lot of leaves were gathered together and that man fell in that and Nicobobinus started running. "Are you all right?" called Rosie, but she didn't have any reply except for the man who growled. Now the man was screaming and shouting and very much angry, and Rosie is fell down because of Nicobobinus that act that he just forced him in the backwards and he fell over there. So what happened? Just wait, both of you. Now the man is angry and saying that you just wait. Oh dear, said Rosie. Sounds like trouble, and she was right. Now Rosie realizes that the situation was getting difficult to manage and to control because it was trouble. The man was angry, Nicobobinus was running, and she was standing up over there. This is the end of the chapter 1. I hope I have done justice to it and you are clear about it. Thank you.
Okay students, we are through with Nicobobinus chapter number 1, in which we have discussed that both of the kids planned something, that they are going to search the land of dragons, and then they enter into a garden. Over there Rosie was left out. She was there, and Nicobobinus was inside the garden, and a man hold his neck and his wrist, and with very force he moved the man backward and made him imbalanced, and the man fell in the pile of the leaves. And now he realized, like he ran over there, Nicobobinus ran from there, and Rosie was thinking that they are into trouble now, and she thought that she was right. Now after this, chapter number 2 starts. It says, Nicobobinus ran as fast as he could across the lawn, down the path, around a hedge, and into a little shed, and bolted the door. Now I've written the words meaning, which I feel might be difficult for you. I always advise my students to read the chapter one day before I explain it in the class, and they should find out the meanings, as nowadays even if you don't have a dictionary at home, in the mobile phone you can just Google it out and you can get it. So to make it easy for you, I've written some of the words on the board. Now what happens, that Nicobobinus ran from there and he entered into, like there was a round hedge is called a fence, into a little shed. Little shed is a type of a place, or maybe a type of a small storeroom, and is where people keep the tools of gardening. If you people have gardens, you must be aware of it, that different tools are utilized while gardening. So that little shed was there. He bolted the door, he closed it. He closed the door after himself. He wanted to make himself secure. Open up, cried the man, and the hinges creaked and the door shook as he banged it with his fists. Now what was, the man was completely beating the door, and Nicobobinus can see the door that it was moving, and he tried to lock it. It was locked, he was secure, but the man was hitting it so hard that he can hear that anytime the door can get open, and the movement of the door was making him afraid, and the man was very much angry. That door's not going to last long, thought Nicobobinus to himself, and he dragged a large old stone roller up against it. Now what he did is that there were stone roller lying over there. He dragged that in front of the door so that man could not open it. Even if he tried to damage the door, and if he comes in, he will not be able, because there was a stone roller in front of it, a huge stone roller, and he kept that in front of the door so that he is secure and he's safe over there. The man says that it won't long last, because the way he was hitting it and beating it, he said that ultimately I'll take you out from here. Open this door at once. Do you hear? The man was shouting, but Nicobobinus didn't hear anything at all. He was too amazed by what he had found. Now when Nicobobinus entered that little shed, and he closed the door after himself. The man was beating the door continuously, and he was shouting and screaming, and he was saying that open the door and I'll get you out from there and you'll see what I'm going to do with you. But Nicobobinus wasn't listening to him. He was actually amazed at the things which were there, or whatever he found over there. Let's see what he found out there. Where was I? You'll have to come out eventually, the man was saying, and the longer you leave it, the worse it will be for you. Now the man is warning him again and again that either you open the door or the consequences will be very worst for you. The result will be very worst for you. But Nicobobinus was not at all paying attention to the man. He was amazed, he was surprised to see the things were there in that particular room. But he could have saved his breath. Nicobobinus was on his knees examining what he had revealed when he moved the roller. He brushed off the dust and undid the catch and then lifted it up. He was searching things and he wanted to know what is there. He just brushed himself all the dust and he found something which was movable and he just lifted it up. Right, I'm going to break this door down, said the man, and then because he knew he had have to repair the door himself, he added, do you hear? Now what happened that Nicobobinus was not at all interested what the man was saying, and the man was continuously hitting the door. He wanted to smash the door and get inside, but then he realized that as he has to repair it himself, so he was shouting and saying, can you hear me? Are you listening? But Nicobobinus was least bothered about it, and he was searching what was there in that particular place. But Nicobobinus didn't hear. Nicobobinus had disappeared through the trap door he had discovered. He was running down stone steps that were slippery with slime, and the other smelt of graveyards, and that went down and down deeper into the ground until it became pitch black. Rosie, said Nicobobinus to himself, this is all your fault. Now what happened? That was a secret door or a secret place that he finds out. He went down it. There was stairs and he was going down, and he was saying that I could feel that it was the smell that was coming out from that. It was slippery and it was like a graveyard. We can say in Urdu, जैसे कब्रिस्तान में से बू आती है. He was feeling something like that, and he was talking to himself, and he was angry that Rosie, this is all your fault. All that I'm in trouble right now is because of you. He heard his heart pounding and his steps echoing along the dank rock of the narrow passageway until all at once there was nothing, and before he realized he was falling in the blackness he was. As he was going down, it was slippery, it was dark, he can't see anything, it was getting dark, his heartbeat was getting, it was pumping very fastly, and he was getting confused and he was afraid. He was a child, and it's very natural that if it is dark, he will be afraid. So he was going inside and it was getting dark. Several thoughts flashed through his mind at the same time. The first was something along the line of bother, only a bit ruder. Now what happens that in that particular moment, several things came to his mind. The very first thing, which is that he was bothered, he thought that he was in trouble just because of Rosie. The second one, and he was getting rude, he was getting annoyed, he was getting irritating, that all because of Rosie he was in this situation. The second was A rather unkind thought about his best friend who had instigated the whole expedition, and it involved her dangling over a snake pit while numerous fierce dragons. Now he was thinking of so many things, that all this journey and all this plan and all this encouragement was given by Rosie. She was the one who encouraged Nicobobinus for this journey, and he just blindly went with him, and now he is in so much trouble that he is thinking of all those aggressive dragons and everything. He feels that it is dark in that room, so maybe the dragons are there and they can come and they can anything can happen to him. So he was thinking of so many things at the same time. How could you do it to him, poor Nicobobinus? The third thought was, suppose it's a well, a deep, unused well with slimy, slippery sides that you could never climb, and icy water at the bottom. That. At the same time, he was thinking maybe that he is in that particular place is a well. And well, we take out water from it, and he feels that the water will be cold and maybe nobody uses it, and maybe for the rest of his life he will stay there. So there were so many things and thoughts were there in his mind which was making him afraid. His heart was beating and he was very much scared. At this point he discovered it was not a well. He made this discovery very suddenly and very painfully. He was in very much pain, he was very disappointed, but he then realized, his mind was still working, he realized that it was not a well. वो एक कुआं नहीं था. Oof, said Nicobobinus, and he lay there in the pitch blackness with not a single breath left in his body for what seemed like the whole winter, but was... Now what happens that when several thoughts were coming in his mind and he was thinking that it might be this or it might be that, it's a well or whatever it was, he was in a dark place where he couldn't see anything and he was scared. It says, "Oof," said Nicobobinus, and he lay there in the pitch blackness without a single breath left in his body for what seemed like the whole winter, but he was probably only a few seconds. He came to himself, in fact, just as a stone hit him on the head. He was lying there and he was just thinking of so many things and nothing worked, nothing was in his mind, and he was so, he thought that he was in so much trouble and he felt that he can't even breathe properly. So all of a sudden a stone hit on his head. "Oof," said Nicobobinus again, and then realized he could hear footsteps high above him. Now he was in a very deep down place. The time a stone hit his head, he heard footsteps that were coming from above. "Stop, sir," he called out, but the footsteps kept on coming down. "Aha, I've got you now," cried the man, "and I shall beat every bone in your body until it is black and..." Now it stopped over here. The boy says that he wanted to make the man stop, that don't come down, please stop over there. But the man says that no, I just got you. And now you just watch. What will I do to you? And he was saying that I'm going to beat every bone in your body and I'll make it black. He stopped over there. He didn't say anything after that. He says black and he stopped. Let's see, what is it? Nicobobinus supposed the man was going to say blue, but in fact the next word he uttered sound more like... Now the word given on the book cannot be pronounced. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'll try, but I might be wrong. It is baka huagu. It is something like this. It was not a word with which Nicobobinus was at all familiar, but he understood its meaning perfectly and moved smartly out of the way. Crash. Now Nicobobinus was expecting that the man will say that he is going to beat every bone of his body. The man will make it black and blue, but he said black and then he didn't said anything. He heard a sound which I tried to pronounce, and he wasn't familiar with that what the word was, but it was a crash. Crash means, as we were reading it before, all the stairs were slippery. So the man slipped and he fell down. So the crash means that the man who was coming in the stairs, and Nicobobinus was able to hear the footsteps. He heard somebody fell down. Are you all right? He asked. There was silence. Now Nicobobinus was trying to search that where that man is, and he's asking, are you okay? Are you all right? But there was silence. Nobody responded. Nicobobinus felt his way back in the pitch dark until his hand touched the man's leather jerkin. The man was lying as still as death, but he was breathing. In that darkness, he wanted to search where that man has gone. At last, his hand touched the jerkin. Jerkin is the jacket the man was wearing. It was made of leather. He thought that the man was lying completely dead because there was no movement in his body. But he realized that he was breathing. He was alive, but actually he fell down, so he wasn't able to say anything. Now page number 10. I must get help, said Nicobobinus to himself, and he began groping around in the blackness to find another way out. When he found it, however, his heart sank. The only exit appeared to be a narrow gap down by the floor, no more than a foot high. Now what happened that he got very scared, and now he wanted to get help and get out of that place. So he was searching in that place blindly so that he could, with his touch, feel any space, anything which could help him out go. So he realized that there was a place, a narrow place, in which he can crawl or he can with the difficulty, but there was a way, and he find it out. I can't squirm through that in the pitch dark. Squirm means to twist your body and when you are not comfortable with discomfort. He said to himself, but at that very moment he heard Rosie's cheerful voice saying, you can do it. Now what happens that Rosie was not there. It was there in his mind that Rosie always motivate him and encourage him that yes, you can do this and go for it. So it was in his mind that if Rosie was with me, she would have motivated me, she would have encouraged me that come on Nicobobinus, you can do it. So he was trying in the darkness with discomfort, but he was going through a place, whatever he felt, and he thought that was the right direction to move in. Nicobobinus spun round, and there, to his immense surprise, was nothing. No Rosie, nobody. He was surprised when he realized that at that particular situation he was all alone. There was no Rosie, there was nobody. But I don't know if it leads anywhere, he said to the voice in his head, and it's such a tight squeeze, I might get stuck. Now he was moving in that tunnel type place, and he was trying to get through it, and he was talking to himself that it's difficult, I might get stuck in it. He didn't hear Rosie's voice again, but he knew what it would have said, and that was how he found himself wriggling down a narrow passage of stone in the pitch black. He squirmed and he wriggled there in the black for a long time, and the tunnel got narrower until he could hardly inch along it. The more he was getting in that place, the more he was trying it. It was complete dark. It was very difficult for him, and he felt that he cannot move forward anymore because it was very narrow. It was getting narrow and narrow. I'm going back, he said to himself, but he didn't. He just kept wriggling and squirming until suddenly he found he could stand up. He took a pace forward and immediately fell over stone steps leading up. He realized he was trying his best and still he didn't give up. And he was trying, and then at one moment he realized that there was a place where he can stand up and there were stairs. So he was very happy that he made it. What happened? Oh, he said, although what he really meant was, thank goodness. At that time, he was happy as well because he was going through that difficult situation, and at last he realized that there was some space and he can go out, and he said, thank goodness, because now he feels that he will get out of this difficult situation. He began to climb, and he was still climbing some minutes later. He was climbing the stairs and he was going up and up. It must be a tower, he thought, or the grandest house in Venus. But at that very moment, he saw a crack of light. Now, while he was going up, he was thinking about that it must be a tower, or it must be the grandest house, the huge house in the entire city, which is Venus. And he was saying that he stretched out his hand and found himself touching a catch that clicked softly in the dark. He could see a crack of light coming in. So he was following that, and with his hands and with the movement of his body, he tried to stretch something out, and that was a door, and a panel suddenly slid open, and Nicobobinus stepped through into the most amazing room he'd ever seen. What happened that when he saw that crack of light, he was following that, and he realized there was something he could move, and when he opened it, he entered to a room which was so beautiful, which was so huge, that in his entire life he have never seen such kind of a place, such amazing room. Now the story ends over here, and we are not aware what happened next. If you want to know, you have to read the novel for it. I am through with it, and I hope you people got it and you understood it, and if still there is any problem, you can comment. I'll respond to it. Thank you so much for paying attention. Allah Hafiz.